Ja, herzlich willkommen zur neuen Ausgabe vom SE Talk. Andrew leads mit bei mir, er ist East Africa Metals. Es hat sich viel getan bei der Company. Wir haben auch kurz vorher gerade jetzt beim Intro gesprochen, was sich in Beaver Creek und in Denver getan hat. Vielleicht gehe ich auch noch kurz darauf ein. Andrew, thank you to have time, and we talked a little in our previous discussion when I set up everything about there was two big conferences this week and last week, the Beaver Creek and the Denver Gold Forum, what was your view from this show?
I attended both, and it was interesting. The Beaver Creek is traditionally a gathering of exploration companies, while the Denver Precious Metal Forum is a gathering of the major mining companies. And there was a bit of a contrast between the two. The exploration conference at Beaver Creek was a little more subdued, well attended, but not a lot of activity with respect to transactions and deals. Whereas the Precious Metal Forum at Denver was quite excited. The major companies were all calling for increased exploration budgets, predicting the advancement of M&A on the heels of the Barrick Resolute deal that was announced at the conference. So there was a great deal of excitement. There were transactions happening, well attended by interested investors and anxious companies. Slightly different than the exploration, but as we know in this industry, interest in exploration companies is usually the first thing to go in a down market and is the last thing to come back. So I would expect that the excitement at the Denver show is really good news for the exploration companies in that we've turned the corner and that the exploration will soon join the majors as the need for new resources, new discoveries has been highlighted by the announcement of the majors of increased exploration budgets and the need for M&A to keep their projects going.
Wow, that's interesting. That normally, or what we saw in the last years, the major not really do too much, also to increase your reserves and or find new projects and so on. So that's mean really that maybe we will see also in the next months, years, a lot of M&A activities.
There's been there hasn't been a lot of money invested globally in exploration over the last 7 years.
Yeah.
And so the major mining companies that continue to produce gold, those reserves and resources are not getting replaced. They're relying strictly on the replacement from brownfields exploration that they do themselves in and around their own projects up to now. But even those discoveries are becoming problematic to replace the mining. So therefore the M&A and what will follow that in the typical return of the cycle is exploration venture capital to start to fuel the discoveries. And of course somewhere along the line we hope to see a catalyst that will spark the interest in the exploration side of things, usually a new discovery. And we're starting to see you don't get new discoveries without investment, and the investment has to come first. So we see that on the horizon, and we're starting to see some activity in the exploration side of things that's will bring the interest back into the market.
You are also a little bit exploration story, but you're more development story. And now we have all of us, we are watching how to finance your project.
Correct.
I think this is the major question mark.
Correct.
So how the things works on this way?
It's been a slow summer, so everybody's getting back to business here in September now, and I had several meetings in Denver and at Beaver Creek with potential financiers. So we're in discussion with a number of groups, and we're quite optimistic that we'll see the funding put in place here in the near future. One of the things that's interesting about our company and our project is that we sort of straddle both, as you mentioned. We are a development company. We've received licenses from the Ethiopian government for all of our assets now, so our entire resource of 1.8 million gold equivalent ounces is now permitted. Not all of that is in the production schedule, but all of it is licensed. So we are in an enviable position, particularly with the infrastructure that is nearby to our projects. But there is an interesting aspect to the Ethiopian mining law where you have a 10-year exploration license. At the end of 10 years, you have to produce mining licenses or walk away.
Okay.
So we acquired our projects with the licenses were already 4 years old. We spent some money discovering and drilling the assets that we have and had tremendous success. $15 an ounce discovery costs on a grassroots project is extremely good, so we were very encouraged about that. But about 2 years ago, we had to abandon the exploration agenda and focus on drilling off deposits that we could submit for mining licenses. So now we've accomplished that. We've submitted the mining license, they've been granted, but our agenda moving forward is twofold. It's the development of the projects, but also a growth agenda to return to the exploration mandate and expand the resource that we had to leave behind in order to focus on acquiring the mine development. So we see really have a foot in both camp as an exploration company and as a development company, and we think there's significant growth potential for the resources and significant opportunity for near-term cash flow as well.
From the license standpoint, is there any timing included that you must do something with your mining permitting in a certain time, or not?
No, there is, and we've already started the development, technically started the development work at Terra Committee. You have 6 months in order to initiate development. So that is the license that has been granted. The other two licenses were approved 3 weeks ago. We're waiting for the issuance of the license on those. So once you do get granted the license, there is a clock. 6 months you have to initiate development, but development is the detailed planning, engineering, putting in roads. We're doing all that at Terra Committee now, so we have technically initiated the development. It's the start, and we have to. Once we complete the financing, we'll start doing the main work. But technically, we have already started the development.
Okay. Back to the financing. How much money you really need, and in which terms you need it that you can bring this into the production?
Well, we've announced through the 3 PEAs in May that the total capital cost to bring all 3 projects into production will be around $160 million US. That does not include the sulfide mineralization that sits underneath our first target, which is the oxide mining at Terra Committee. With the first initial mining will be the gold oxide at Terra Committee. The capital cost for that project is $17.2 million US. So the initial capitalization of development in Ethiopia could begin with as little as $17 million. However, all 3 projects will come in on a step-by-step basis, and over the next 18 to 24 months, I'd expect that we'd identify the needs for $160 million US. But it's an initial step. It gets us into cash flow. It allows us to prove the concept and add value. It also, the initial operation gives us the time to grow the resource through exploration. So we expect a return to some very significant exploration agenda while we develop the Terra Committee deposit, and we think that will flow into the development of all 3 projects with a larger resource base and a cooperative a sharing of resources by all 3 operations.
You said before you will coming up with the financing in near term. Near term is, everybody has a different point of view of near term. So what is for you near term?
Well, we right now plan the significant development of the mining operation at Terra Committee to begin in the first quarter next year.
So that means you must set up this year or in the early next year.
Correct.
Good. This is the financing, the major question mark about your company. But then there was talk in the past about this Tanzania project.
Yes.
So what's going on here?
Well, it's a legal situation now, unfortunately, in that there has been as has been disclosed, the operator, our partner, has run into some difficulty. The Tanzanian government has stepped in to question the mining operation. So we, on behalf of our shareholders, have moved to the courts to reacquire the project. We have the support of the Tanzanian government in doing so, and we have pledged to remediate and install a more compliant operation. So that is in the process, and we expect to have some news on that in the next little while. There's not really it's not an adversarial thing. It's just that the operation failed to meet Tanzanian regulations. The government became concerned. We're looking to remedy that situation. So we have agreed, if the government is willing, to step in, and we're waiting for a court decision that would allow us to do that.
So that means you get back this project for, I would say, nothing, or what was it?
Yes, it would return to us.
But there was a lot of investment in there.
The undercapitalization of our partners was the heart of the issue. So, in my opinion, and so I think that there would be no need. The operation could return to us partially developed. We have there's significant interest from a number of companies about stepping in and acquiring the property as well. So we're undecided at this point, and if, as I said, we're waiting for the court decision to allow us to move in, and I think that once we reacquire that property, we will decide what we will do with it. But it certainly has some value, and in an increasing gold market, it does. There's an additional 1 million ounces there that we would then return to our company's resource base.
Wow.
Yeah, permitted again. So we would have 4 permitted projects in Africa with a total 43-101 compliant resources of about 2.5 million ounces. So that changes our profile, but it also spreads our resources out. So we'd have to consider the value then.
Is it possible that somebody come alone and acquire your whole company, especially when you see this Barrick Randgold deal?
Well, I think the Barrick Randgold transaction was viewed as a move into Africa, and I think that was really evidenced by some of the discussions that I had at the Denver Gold Show. So while the assets that were the target of the acquisition were in Western Africa, we really believe that East Africa is where a lot of this is going to move. Ethiopia is an emerging environment. Tanzania, I would say the pendulum's swinging back there now. I think they've done some damage through some of the government decisions over the last few years to the development. I think they're starting to see that that's really caused a problem for their economy. And my recent trips to Tanzania, we've been very encouraged by to see that things seem to be swinging back the other way there now. So we think that Africa and our position in Africa, especially as I mentioned, we're starting to obtain a critical mass of ore that could be developed. And really, I think that if we are in a position over the next 18 months to engage a growth agenda through exploration in Ethiopia, that we'll start to be accumulating a significant amount of value in the terms of mineable ore reserves that will certainly attract some interest. There are people watching, I will say that.
Andrew, thank you for the update. It's always a pleasure for me. Update East Africa. Also, das erste ist einmal alle 3 Minen, was sie jetzt oder alle 3 Projekte, muss ich ja sagen, die sie in Äthiopien haben, sind jetzt permitted. Nicht alle sind noch nicht die Minenlizenz eher noch ausgeliefert worden, aber bei der einen haben sie schon, da fangen sie auch schon das Development an. Development heißt Detailplanung und so weiter. Das ist die erste Phase des Projektes oder dieses einen Projektes. Und das kostet in Summe so 17,2 Millionen. Die ganze erste Phase, das ganze Oxide-Bereich für alle 3 Projekte kostet über 100 Millionen. Und die Finanzierung ist das große Fragezeichen, was wir drauf haben. Und er geht davon aus, dass er die Finanzierung in den nächsten 4 Monaten quasi, also in diesem Jahr großteils abgeschlossen hat, vielleicht early next year die Finanzierung dann abgeschlossen ist, damit die Entwicklung, das tatsächliche harte Arbeiten, also wo die großen Bauarbeiten stattfinden, im Jänner beginnen können. One question that's come to my mind when I make the summary in German. When you start the construction of the first project, how long it takes that before you coming, or how long it takes to the construction phase before you start the production there?
We're looking at a 12-month development period and 18 months to cash flow projected from the start. Should be very fast. It's a bite-sized project.
Yeah. So it's mean when you can start in the first quarter next year, starting construction, it's mean half 2020. Ja. Okay, die Konstruktionszeit ist ungefähr 12 Monate, bis dass der Cashflow kommt 18 Monate. Das heißt, wenn er wirklich im ersten Quartal anfangen kann, das ist Mitte 2020 in Produktion und generiert dort einen Cashflow. Finanzierung ist das große Fragezeichen immer dran, das war es schon in der letzten Zeit und deswegen bin ich gespannt, was da rauskommt. Die zweite Sache ist, ich habe gefragt, wie es mit Tansania ausschaut. Sie haben ein Projekt oder einen Partner eingenommen für Ihr Tansania-Projekt. Der hat allerdings einige Probleme gehabt und deswegen sind Sie jetzt gerade bei Gericht in Tansania, um dieses Projekt zurückzubekommen. Also die Regierung in Tansania ist eingeschritten, weil dort bei der Umsetzung des Minenrechts was nicht passt, also die Umsetzung war nicht richtig. Deswegen ist die tansaniische Regierung eingeschritten und hat das Projekt quasi zurückgenommen und sie sind jetzt bei Gericht, um das Projekt wieder in ihre Hände zu bekommen. Wenn das stimmt, haben sie 1 Million Unzen Gold mehr wieder auf ihren Büchern stehen, hat dann in 2 Länder Tätigkeit, was dann mich natürlich wieder zu dem Punkt gebracht hat, könnte das nicht dann auch andere Investoren anziehen, die in Afrika investieren wollen, weil dann haben sie immerhin 4 Projekte mit über 2,8 Millionen Unzen. Das ist dann schon ein interessantes Bereich. Und nachdem es die Woche ja Gold gerade Barrick und Randgold Merger gegeben hat, kommt einfach das Interesse auch nach Afrika wieder retour. Und das hat er auch ihm gesagt, das hat man auch auf der Denver Gold Show gesehen. Dort waren die Minencompanies, dort war die Stimmung relativ gut. Im Verhältnis zum Beaver Creek, dort war die Stimmung extrem schlecht. Und das liegt daran, dass der Explorationszyklus der erste ist, der in einen PS geht, aber der letzte ist, der aus einer PS rauskommt. Und die Minen war aber eigentlich sehr positiv. Dieser Randgold-Merger von Barrick oder die Übernahme von Randgold durch Barrick hat Interesse nach Afrika zurückgebracht und das könnte natürlich für Erna sehr, sehr positiv sein. Das war's von East Africa Metals, September 2018 Vancouver. Tschüss und Baba. Thank you.
Thank you.